To be followed by Keith Brown. Ms Hamilton.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I draw members to my register of interests as a director of a small hospitality business in the Borders. Every year we hear the SNP promise improved relationships with Scotland's business community, a great reset of government economic policy, but it goes nowhere. Sturgeon, Yusuf, the SNP pursue the same anti-business agenda. If the SNP value Scottish tourism and all the jobs that the business it supports, they have a very funny way of showing it. They're making Scottish tourism businesses pay more tax than those south of the border. They're introducing more red tape, more regulation. They're even making it harder for tourists to visit parts of Scotland by leaving major roads uninvested. The Borders, the North East, we've heard about it. No investment, island communities without ferries. And beyond the purchase of a campervan, the SNP have done very little for Scottish tourism. They didn't even use the campervan. Perhaps the Greens fancy a trip, a one-way trip in the campervan. As the Economist said, the country's political class has been on a long holiday, but not in a campervan, clearly. On the campervan? Not just now, thank you. In the past, we could address some of those concerns to the Scottish Government Minister for Tourism. Now there is no such post. It's been demoted to a small footnote at the end of somebody else's responsibilities. Therefore, it's somebody else's problem. No thanks. It is a disappointing approach because tourism is an integral part of Scotland's economy. And before COVID hit, the tourism sector accounted for 1 in every 11 jobs. And it's jobs like these that are really important to rural communities, such as my constituency in the Border. And it was a pleasure to visit an agri-tourism business, Benken Farm, on Monday, where they are diversifying, they're developing their farm cottages, they are employing people, they are giving walking trails to people who are visiting the area. And also I visited the River Tweed Commission, where, of course, we know how important salmon fishing is to the River Tweed. And one of the employees said that Kelso is to salmon angling what St Andrews is to golf. And whether it's the river, a farm, a natural asset, these fantastic events, attractions, and natural assets are so important to rural areas. But the tourism sector is succeeding on its own. They're succeeding in spite of this SNP government, while enterprises elsewhere in the UK benefit from 75% rate relief. The SNP choose not to match those for Scottish businesses. Whilst other governments try to attract visitors, the SNP want to bring in a tourism tax to hike the price of accommodation during a cost of living crisis. While Scotland's tourism industry gets back on its feet after COVID, the SNP brought in harmful short-term legislation. Yes.
Well, the member's got 50 seconds left, so we have to be very brief and a very brief response. Ms Hamilton, please continue.
Thank you. So it is another SNP policy that, according to the Stop Scottish Tourism Alliance, will do limited good and risk maximum harm. The SNP will drive tourists and jobs they support away from Scotland with their hardline anti-business agenda. Presiding Officer, the government needs to stop talking about a reset with Scottish businesses and get on with it. They can begin by abandoning short-term legislation, scrapping the tourism tax, providing Scottish businesses with the same support as elsewhere in the rest of the UK, ditching the Independence Minister, bringing in a tourism minister, and bringing forward an urgent blueprint to support Scotland's tourism sector. Thank you.